I was privileged to be a moderator for an opening panel at the beginning after a keynote by Brian LeBlanc. I interviewed 5 people living with different diagnoses of dementia. And we spent about an hour and a half talking about their experiences, some prepared questions and some questions from the audience. And we took a break after that morning session, and a couple people actually came up to me at that point and said, "This is the best dementia conference I've ever been to." And I said, "Wait a minute, we still have 2 days to go." And they said, "I don't care. This is already better than anything I've seen." And so it was just really an incredible experience. And those comments just increased throughout the 2 days.
I've been to many conferences. I've been in healthcare for 25, 30 years. And I would say that this conference really stands out to me in terms of the passion and compassion of the people who organize it. I mean, Jackie and her team are just off the charts and setting the tone for a warm, supportive, and loving conference. And that's just totally different than most conferences where you're just sort of shaking hands and it's all business. I mean, you really felt the purpose and the mission behind what the organizers were trying to do, and everybody really bought into it. So it was just a completely different feel than what I've seen in the past. The sessions were really excellent. I don't want to minimize that because I've talked about other things, but the sessions were great. I learned a ton. I made a number of excellent connections, but it's really that unique perspective that persons living with dementia brought to the conference, and it was the insights that I had that have allowed our business to, I think, move in a direction that's going to be better at improving care for people who are living with dementia. And obviously, from a selfish perspective, something that will allow our company to be more successful.
I think my favorite session in the conference was the session on compensatory strategies that featured 2 wonderful women living with the disease who really took us through their daily life and how they've learned to cope. I mean, these incredible compensatory strategies using everyday technology that we all use that frankly keep us all organized, whether we have dementia or not. Things like Outlook calendars and use of iPad and smartphones and other technologies to keep themselves organized and remembering important events. But also just great hacks, frankly, for traveling and things that they've organized differently about their lives that make continuing to live well with the disease possible. So again, just the most powerful lessons always come from those folks living with the disease, and the Dementia Action Alliance Conference is a great place to learn from those people.
When I go around to the state and give my presentations, I actually now have a slide based on what I learned at the conference called Reframing Dementia. And I talk about living with dementia as living with a disability, and that came squarely from the conference. And people are nodding, and they're saying, this is so different than what we've heard anywhere else. To think of living with dementia as not this death sentence that folks, are receiving at the diagnosis, but rather as an opportunity to live, full lives, meaningful lives, to be supported as someone living with a disability means something very, very different for my messaging and for the response that I'm getting from the community. So that's very, very exciting. We're talking about building cognitive ramps as well as the physical ramps for wheelchairs, demanding access to assistive technology. Also, what I learned from the conference is, trying to create and partner with folks living with dementia to create mentoring and advocacy opportunities. So huge, huge takeaways. I can't tell you.
Probably the most impactful thing was a panel discussion that I saw of 5 people living with the disease, and Alan Power moderating. And the very most powerful thing that I saw was they described for me what it was like, or for us, what it was like to get the diagnosis. And I'll have to say to you that I was embarrassed to hear what most of them said, because it was not a pleasant day in clinic. And it taught me that we need to do a better job as physicians. So what I've done with that, because of the powerful influence of this conference, I've taken this to the American Academy of Neurology, and we are going to work on training physicians starting next year in empathy and in communication and in compassion. So yes, it has impacted me strongly, and I can't say enough good things about the conference, and I hope to change my way of practice and to help others change their way of practice because of this great event. So thank you to the Dementia Action Alliance and to all those involved in the conference.
Let me tell you, I was sitting at a table watching one of the keynotes, and I realized that I'm a social worker by profession. So I'm a professional. My area of expertise is dementia. But I realized the person sitting beside me was a professional, and the person sitting beside me was a person living with dementia. And it became quite clear to me and to the other professionals in the room that really the experts in the room are the people living with dementia who are attending this conference. That was so powerful and so incredible to learn from the speakers, from the guests who were attending the conference who have dementia. And I have never been to a better conference. And as a professional, I go to a lot of conferences, but this was hands down the best conference I've ever attended. I am not the expert, and I sure as heck want to continue to sit beside the experts when I go to conferences in the future. So for anyone who's questioning whether or not this kind of a conference is right for them, whether they're a professional or someone who's a care partner or absolutely the person who is living with dementia, this is the conference for you. You need to attend this. This will be one of those life-changing moments when you get to hear people's stories and you get to change the lives of others. Just do it.